the companies I had and still have, I've never asked anyone about their degree, background, education. I look you in the eyes, I speak with you, and I ask you, show me what you can do for me and how we can work together, but I don't care about your education. If I'd ask you what school you've been through, or what degree you have, what course you took, would it matter to me what you can do for me as a cameraman now, today? No. So if I see what you can and you show me your work, and afterwards you tell me I've never been to any school at all, but I can speak, I can read, I can do my filming, my editing, and that's what I taught myself. And now you're good at what you do. Did it matter that you went to whatever school? Did it matter you learned French or history or whatever? No. The only thing that matters is that you are good in what you do now. Whoever taught you.
Michael Pilarczyk.
Michael Pilarczyk.
Michael Pilarczyk.
Also known as Mr. Mindset.
From a renowned DJ and TV host to a millionaire at 27.
I told you many years ago, you got a Rolls-Royce voice.
After losing all his money on the stock market,
he bounced back, made millions again, and then went on a journey of self-awareness.
He now is a best-selling author, speaker, and serial entrepreneur.
His insights guide people to transform their lives,
find clarity, and live with purpose.
If you look at the educational system we have now, and you compare it to, let's say, when I was at school 30, 40 years ago, and even longer, 70 to maybe 100 years ago, it was about the same. So within 100 years, the educational system hasn't really changed. We're sitting there in a classroom, we have to be silent, sit still, you need to listen, you got to listen all day, and there's so much information, and they try to compress that in your mind, in your brain. And I think if you have a realistic view on the system right now, my opinion is that you are being educated for the past. They didn't really change the system, the lessons, so they educate you to be something which is outdated. And therefore, I think the system is a bit outdated, because if you, for example, now start at 4, 5, or 6 years old at school, and you graduate at 18 or 20 or 25, in that period of 20 years, the world changes. In the past 20 years, the world has really changed a lot. But the educational system is about the same. That's weird. Why? And I know it's been changing, but it didn't change that much. So they don't teach you about today's life, how everything works with computers and AI, and where we are heading, or what is needed in the near future. Why did the system never change? Well, it's going to now. Like the financial system is breaking down. Political systems are breaking down. The church, religion, it's breaking down. It's changing. There's a transformation going on. So it will with education. I think the system will collapse or explode or whatever, but it will break down, because one day you have a classroom full of kids and they're telling the teacher, hello, sir, hello, mister, hello, whatever, lady, teacher, why should we learn this crap? We don't need this. Because they can teach the teacher about life, because they understand computers, they understand AI, they understand their way of thinking. They understand they need something else for their future. And it's pretty hard for parents or teachers to teach young kids from their perspective. We Me too. You know, I'm 55. I always think that I know how it should work. I listen to my teacher Dan Pena. You know, the guy's 80 already. If you are 20 years old now and you listen to Mr. Pena, who's 80 years old, you might think he's an old lunatic because it's not their way of thinking anymore. You know, to me, he was a great teacher and still is. I am a great teacher for many people, but I can also imagine that if you're 15 or 20 years old now, you think, who's that old guy? You know, he's outdated. So we have to evolve and develop the process of what is education and why is it needed for? What is really needed for life? You know, not only to get that degree, because people who go to school to get a degree need that to prove that they have some value to get a job. But they don't teach you how to communicate. They teach you how to read and to write. They don't teach you how to communicate. And most people can't communicate. Most people have problems communicating with other people, but also with themselves. So, what don't you learn at school? Who you really are. The most important part of you is being you, understanding who you are, why you do, what you want to do, how to express yourself, how to grow as a person. That's what they don't teach you. That's the most important thing. Why does no one teach you about the power of the mind? How your thoughts create your reality and your life and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Why are so many people living in fear or stressed, you know? So many people, especially young people, they have mental problems. Why can't you teach someone to quiet their mind? You know, why can't you teach mindfulness at school? Because then you will become a better person. If you become a better person, and I will as well, and your friends and my friends, and we all are becoming better versions of ourselves, what do you think will happen to the world? Then we create a better world. And of course, there are teachers telling you, you shouldn't do that, you should be kind to each other, you shouldn't use these kind of words. But still, most problems we face in our own life and in society, they start during our period between, let's say, 5-6 years old till 21, 25. In the period we go to school every day, we meet these teachers, we meet our friends in school, and no one teaches how to live in harmony, a balanced life, how to become your best self, how to understand not only yourself, which is most important to understand yourself, but also to understand other people, so that you can have compassion, can listen to someone else. But that's what I think what they should teach you. One essential life skill we all should learn is how to communicate. Not only with other people, but basically with ourselves. You know, that's most important, to communicate with yourself, to understand what's going on in that mental factory, to understand your thoughts, why you think the way you think, because every thought we have, we give meaning. And the meaning we give to a thought gives us emotion and feelings, and then we start behaving and reacting to what we think is real. So I think communication is one of the most important things to learn. And if you look at today's education worldwide, they use it. They use the power of the mind and the power of thought and belief systems. Actually, school is something that is programming you to become someone, somebody. So if you go to school in America or in Russia or in the Middle East, they will program you in a different way. So if that's the case, they can also program you another way, to be a more kind, loving person, to have more compassion, to better understanding yourself, to understand life better, so we can live more in harmony. And that is what they can teach you. If you go to school in India, they have the basic teachings, like writing and reading and, all the numbers and figures. But they also have a part in which they teach you mindfulness, meditation, peace of mind, how it works in the mental factory, compassion, love, all those important elements of life, they teach you in the other school. I think it would be good if we have more of those two kinds of education in a new educational system. As I've written down in Master Your Mindset, I think Master Your Mindset could be a blueprint for how I would teach people, teach children. I would learn how to master your mindset. I would teach you how to communicate the right way. I would teach you to use the power of the mind, how you can use imagination, which is really important. And I would teach you how to meditate, how to be at peace, how to create peace of mind. The part of emotional intelligence is so important to learn. That should be something important to learn. If you start at 5 or 6 years old, to have more understanding about emotional intelligence. Now it's, when they're 9, they get a kind of IQ test, they get assignments, you have to do this and that and then, and they decide, you have a low IQ. The guy must be stupid. He has a high IQ. He must be really intelligent. Well, I know many intelligent people, really high IQ, making no money, unhappy in their life, unhappy with themselves, unhappy in love. And then they try to explain, because they're so intelligent, it's hard to live a normal life. Fucking bullshit, I know people with a very low IQ, very kind, honest people. I agree, they're not the smartest, but they do their thing, and they do it well. They live with passion, and they're happy. So the IQ, to me, is less important than emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence has to do with the self. Can I handle myself? Can I handle my emotions? Or am I being controlled by my emotions? And if I cannot control my emotions, it could be I start a fight with you and we have a conflict. And when we grow older, we have a war. Because we were not taught about emotional intelligence. So I think that's a very, very, very important matter that we should implement in the new educational system. For 1,000 years or even more, we needed good teachers. And maybe today more than ever, we need good teachers. People who can teach us about how to live well together. May I give this example? You can watch a video about swimming, pretending you're 6 or 7 years old, You watch a video about how to swim. Well, you jump into the water, you move a little bit around, and you can swim. So the guy jumps into the water, drowns. You need a teacher. Also with cooking, writing, arts, music, whatever. You need a real human teacher. Maybe also to support you, to guide you. You're more self-supporting than ever because you can find almost anything online. So you can teach yourself. But then there is this teacher you can go to ask questions that can support you, inspire you. When you are in a bad mood or you lose faith in what you're doing, in yourself, when you're young, it's good to have someone to trust that can help you, that can push you, to another level. So I think we will always, forever, need teachers. A lot of teachers trying to do their best, but they are being prisoned within the system. So there are good teachers, old teachers, new teachers, trying to have another vision on education like we have, but they're still locked in the system. So the system needs to change, and it will change because the students, the kids, future kids, but I think little children already now, don't think it makes sense to go to school every day now, sit there and listen to what they need to know, because they ask themselves, they're so smart, the little children, they're so smart. They're really asking themselves, why should I know this? Why should I learn this? Why can I develop myself in what I really want to know? If young kids or students are not interested in learning something, because at that moment it's not of their interest, just leave them. Don't force them to learn something they don't like, because if you are being forced to do something you don't like, there's a lot of resistance. You start fighting. I don't want to learn this. And why should they? Because most of the times, later on in life, you will realize you need it or not. I can tell you, I think it would be very good to learn the basics of meditation or to create peace of mind, to learn a little bit about mindfulness. I think that will be worthwhile for the quality of your life. Well, I don't want to learn that. Okay, well, then you don't. No problem, But what do you want to learn? It's up to you to choose something else, but you need to learn something. You need to improve your skills. Then one day, later on in life, you realize, oh, I'm so stressed. I'm fearful. I have a lot of anxiety in my life. I can't sleep. I'm restless. And then you realize, maybe now is the time to do some research on meditation, or learn to meditate, or learn how to create a bit of peace in my inner self, in my mind. So what's really important to understand, that if you want to teach something to someone who doesn't want to learn, it becomes a battlefield. And one day later on in life, when you realize something could be of value to you, you have motivation, so you will start learning yourself. You will put time and effort into it to get a better understanding. Whatever you need in life, you have motivation to learn. When you have a better understanding why you should learn something and what you can do with it, it might be easier to choose what you want to learn and what for it's needed. And then when there is motivation, then you create your own kind of school. Let me put it this way. When you were 12 or 15, I don't know what's the best age, but let's say in between 12 and 15, and I would have told you, Tony, you can choose whatever subjects, doesn't matter, It's good to keep in mind that reading and writing and language is important, but if you don't want to do that now, okay, we might do it next year. There will be a time in your life that you will understand that you need to learn that. It's up to you to choose what you want to learn in a specific period of life. And so you have everything lay out on the table and you choose what you want to do, what you want to learn. And maybe for half a year you want to put all your time and energy and effort in writing or filming and editing or tech or biology, and then after a few months you can change subject. And we need to guide, and therefore teachers are so important. You have to inspire and to help people to understand why they need to learn something, why they are learning something, that in the end, when you graduate at 18 or 20 or 25 years old, you have capacity to do something, to be somebody, to create a life for yourself. I think that's most important, that you are being taught to be able to create your own life. And then still, when you're 20, 25, 30, 40, whatever, and you need to teach something new, it's up to you what you want to learn next. I'm still learning every day. When I was about 40, I took writing classes. I went to a special school for writers in Amsterdam when I was 40. Now I'm a pretty well-known writer. Before that, I wasn't that good in language because it was not of my interest, I never read books. I didn't know how to do my grammar and my spelling, but when I started to write books and I had passion for writing, I really wanted to know all about it. So if you have passion, if you really want to achieve something, then you will decide for yourself what is important to learn for you. And teachers are very important, like coaches, to inspire you, to help you, to direct you in a direction where they think you should go, but in the end, it's your decision. I think, and I've noticed within my experience, little children, students, they will find their passion, they will find something they like if you give them opportunities. And in the system we have now, when you are 12 or 14, 15 years old, they tell you, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. This is the box you have to choose from. This is what you can do. And then you need to specialize, which is important. And then you can choose from this. Why not keep it open for a longer time, Develop yourself, and then later on in life, you can choose your own specialism. Like, I want to be a doctor, a heart surgeon, a pilot, an astronaut, whatever, It will come when the person is ready to learn. That's my conviction. And I think that would be a kind of ideal school educational system I would go for.